that young people face and older folks as well face once they come out of foster care. And Ms. Redmond has given us some excellent information, as has Ms. Sparks. And so let's see, Ms. Redmond, if we can look at the organization that you're in charge of, Starting Point,
Okay.
and tell us give us some information in reference to how you became involved in that organization and what are your objectives and how successful you've been. And then we'll allow Ms. Sparks to give us some information in reference to what the Metropolitan Public School System is doing in reference to foster care. And then we'll have Pastor Walker to sort of summarize from his perspective some of the things that the two of you have been talking about dealing with foster care, and we'll get out of this second segment.
Okay.
And let's start with you at Starting Point.
Okay, Starting Point, the idea of Starting Point was born out of a necessity of youth exiting out of foster care. I was teaching at a well-known program that houses state youth, and I was teaching GED skills. And within that program, there were kids that were exiting foster care that were really, some of them were becoming homeless. Mm-hmm. And the program is a great program, but personally, as a teacher, I knew those youth, and they would ask me things like, can they keep clothing or backpacks or whatever in my classroom, because they had to go and stay at a hotel, or they didn't have anywhere to go that night. They didn't know where they were going to be living from place to place. And I started thinking, wow, this is not good. You know, these kids don't really have a place to go. There was a pregnant youth in my classroom, and she was not settled or stable. Even though she was in the program, there was still a lot of extra factors that was very detrimental to these youth. I mean, I could kind of relate to what some of them were going through, being a teen mother myself. You know, I didn't want to see the students and the young women go through some of the same things that I had gone through as a teenager. Not that I was in foster care, but still that age group of going from adulthood, from teenagehood to adulthood. So I started brainstorming on ways that we could help meet the needs of some of these youth. I just started brainstorming on it. And there was I had a tutor for that program, a very good friend of mine, still teaches at Watkins College. She was one of our tutors. I never would have known the lady was a Harvard grad. She was just so humble. And we started brainstorming on what we could do to help serve these youth. And she came up with some things, and I came up with some things, and out of that, Starting Point was born. It's a work in progress, but what it really wants to do is meet the basic needs, be a bridge in the gap of services to youth that's exiting foster care, to collaborate and partner with other organizations in the community to get this done, because it is a very, very severe problem. About 30,000 youth exited out of foster care nationwide, and in Tennessee, 1,017 between 2012 and 13 exited out. Out of those 1,017 youth, 748 of those youth were eligible for what they now have called extended care, where they can, instead of cutting them off at 18, they extend the financial care to 21. But out of those 748 that exited out, only, I think it was maybe 301 that accepted the care. And so what happens to that other bit, you know, that has not accepted the care? A lot of these youth, after they've been through the system in so long, it's so traumatic. They don't want to, when they become 18, even though they don't realize the decisions they're making, they don't want anything else to do with the system. And what they choose to do is to not accept the care. We want to still be around for those, even if they are not doing extended care. Even for those who do have extended care, we want to just be around to help those youth, because we have a lot of wisdom in our organization, because a lot of people like myself have gone through some things that are very, very relatable to some of these youth. And well, that's about it.
Well, and of course, Ms. Sparks, you see this from a metropolitan school system kind of perspective. Say something about what you do in the school system dealing with foster care.
Well, I have experienced students aging out of foster care, and a lot of them are not equipped with the skills they need to function in society without any help. And that's how I really became interested. When Brenda told me her vision, I was saying, well, yes, I want to be involved with that, because these students really need services, especially job skills. And that's my part of the program. Is hospitality and culinary arts is my area of expertise. And I would like to see us be able to train these students, with job skills, and for them to be able to go to one of our partners, which is the Hyatt Hotel, and job shadow. Because in the Nashville area, the hospitality is booming with the Music City Center and the Omni Hotel and all the restaurants that have come here as a result of that. There are many, many jobs. There's actually more jobs than it is people to fill them. And if they have the skills, the good thing about the hospitality industry is that if they have, the right attitude, and they can be a member of the team, no matter what their skill or academic level is, there is a position for them in that industry. So that's where my part comes in.
Mm-hmm. And so in a real sense, Pastor Walker, we're talking about an issue that people often overlook in terms of what happened to these individuals once they enter this system and once they exit the system, that there's a need for what we're talking about. Is that what we're saying?
I'm beginning to see that there is definitely a need for it. I think a lot of times people get involved in the system through different channels, I would suppose, through the juvenile court system. Just from my experience in the past and trying to help, single mothers with their children and while they're on drugs and things like that, and saw how that they would lose their child, and once they lose parental rights, the child would then go into that system, the foster care system. And I know that can be a challenging system because a lot of these children are moved from place to place, home to home, different foster parents and stuff like that, and then having to go through all of that for 7, 8, 9, 10, sometimes, they go into the age 2 on up to 18, and then to get to that age of 18, and then they age out of the system. And then if depending upon where they've been in foster care, how solid that foundation is, a lot of them, from what I'm understanding, is coming out and not having a support system solid enough in place to help them make that transition from foster care into living outside of
job
foster
or
care.
whatever, etc. Okay, so let's take this first commercial break, and then we're going to come back, and we'll be back with our audience following this very, very short commercial break.